Hey, you got any friends?
What's up, Forlorn Peter? Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Ting Jing, welcome.
Are they bums? Leeches on the skin of your nation?
I don't know.
Are they out-leveling you due to their slack schedules and your go-getter attitude at your real job?
Man, those hurt. They hurt.
Well, how are you going to group with their characters if they're all 10 levels higher than you? That don't seem fair. Oh, wait. This is Pantheon. We're above meager problems like that. Today, we tackle the level gap. Let's go! Creative director Chris Joppa Perkins has been opening the development of the world of Terminus to the community through his streaming of the world building and testing sessions a few times a week. This has been a huge hit with the community, not a small part due to the conversations he has with Chad on the development of the systems for the game. In recent streams, there has been a lot of discussion about playing with friends that can't play with the same frequency as others. So a level gap starts to form, and then how do you group together? It's a problem that has been tackled different ways with different games, but Pantheon is its own game with its own idiosyncrasies that need to be considered. Alright, you got a buddy you like gaming with. Let's call her Margaret. Hey, girls are gamers too, you know. You misogynists. Anyway, Margaret doesn't have a job and lives in her parents' basement. Hey, girls can be slackers too, you feminists. Anyway, Margaret plays at least twice as much as you do, which means it didn't take long for her to level too far for y'all to group together. So, now what? The three most prominent offerings from the streams were a mentoring system and a catch-up system, basically bonus XP for lower levels, or do nothing at all. So one at a time, the mentoring system would work approximately like this. Margaret joins your group and has the ability to adjust her level down to your level to enjoy the content you are currently fighting. Now, this allows for some replayability in lower zones for folks progressing beyond that and trying to keep the player count up in lower level areas. But there are issues that arise with this. None of the loot is beneficial to her at all. If you change the level, do you change Margaret's base stats too? What about her OP gear? What about her OP abilities? And the abilities are affected by your base stats. So basically, how much of a twink do you make Margaret while she plays, trying not to trivialize the content? Now, as an aside, trivializing content has been another big topic targeted by VR's giant problem-killing laser gun. The current changes to EXP and mob leveling and fight time upcoming have partly been about dodging the trivialization of content problem. The new system of debuffing much harder to kill mobs through new abilities across classes is another way they are tackling the issue. And as long as you balance all these variables for higher level friends joining your group, it is a viable option to get higher level characters to revisit lower level content. The other option is to have EXP bonuses for lower level characters. This helps Margaret's friend to catch up with her when they are on. This option has major issues. This would lead to the meta path through the game being just grouping with as high a level character as you're allowed and XP bonusing your way through the content. This also is detrimental to the content as everyone just rushes straight through leveling. And the other option is to do nothing and let people twink characters to help power level you to catch you up with your friends. Now, this is the least effective in solving the problem of the level gap, but more in line with the actions have consequences tenet of Pantheon. Tell Margaret to stop playing that tune, or you need to quit your job and play more. Bet. So these three options have taken few considerations the other systems Pantheon leans on to set their vision of what this game is. And one of the biggest issues VR is trying to address in this next-gen MMO is the stale regions of the game from characters moving to higher level content and fewer low-level tunes playing, so you get empty zones. Down-leveling a player in a group does get them playing lower-level content, but once their friends level up, then what? There's another way to think of this that follows on with the do-nothing track. Adding a quote-unquote system to handle a level gap problem is like taking medicine for an ailment. Most of them have side effects that have to be addressed until you are taking 8 pills a day and feel worse than you did before treating the first problem. So doing nothing also has the upside of spending that time on other systems that are core and not just medicinal. So I propose doing nothing to handle the level gap, but providing the systems already proposed by VR to handle the issue organically. These include the perception system, limited crafting specializations, actions have consequences policies involving faction and content gating, and progeny. So here's how this works. Margaret is playing a lot on her favorite character, a dwarf pally, right? She used to be able to group with you, but she's been laid off from the gap, and her dwarf pally is just too high now to group. So the time she has spent on that pally has produced decisions that have affected her faction. Her ventures all over Tenebris have led to some interesting storylines through the perception system, and those branches have led toward and away from different storylines in other places and or her abilities to get certain content. She obviously went into smithing for crafting, but can only specialize in making plate mail. But she really likes the character. But what Margaret doesn't know is that if she re-rolled a paladin, or even a warrior, or a dire lord, that was a different race and spent time leveling on a different continent, the perception system would branch in new and exciting ways, open up different content and storylines. Her faction would allow her to get into different areas and new content. Her new character could take her smithing to weapon specialization, which can even help her main. So this new character can now be the character she plays when you are playing, so y'all stay around the same level. She has been properly incentivized to alt. So there are only 2 options to retain players in an MMO. One is to continue to create higher level content, new zones, new raids, and continuously expand the game world. So this has the detrimental effect of diluting the populations in the rest of the game world. That is how zones or regions of the game world die. This also minimizes access to lower level content. If VR is committed to having raids and content as low as the teen levels, then why would anyone develop another system in the game that steers away from that content? This new option is to make re-rolling a character a fun and exciting experience. And this requires enough content and incentives to play in areas you haven't before. And the content also has to stay fresh, but this cuts down on creating new game world, which is a large piece of dev time of itself, and only needs updated content. If you spend time making new quests for low-level areas, removing old quests after some length of time and replacing it with the new quests, changing where certain mobs spawn. How about your old favorite spot to kill bandits in a patch turned into an area where griffins spawn, where they just came in and wiped out all the bandits? Now the bandits had to move somewhere else. Well, to where? Well, why don't you go explore and find out? Maybe there's a new set of racial armor that is a level 20 quest line. You don't feel bad about rolling a new character and getting it, especially if you have another system also pushing players to start over. Progeny. Y'all, Progeny has the ability to open new class race options, or carry over certain abilities from one class to another class for the Progeny, giving some new emergent flexing options for characters who sacrifice a max level character to create their Progeny. Just imagine that. Joppa mentioned during one stream that his concern in reality is people can't help but play that alt that they make for playing with their friends because they just have too much invested in that tune. It's too fun. I can't help but play it.
I was right, but wrong. I was right, but so wrong.
But if that is the case, then why is VR even trying to make areas where people coming back? That's like giving up and saying the only way forward is to continue increasing the size of the game world and the amount of content and max level range ad infinitum. It is the reality that the level cap will need to rise, and new game world will need to be made, but not that couldn't be slowed way down. If they were to lean into creating new content, already needed for the other option anyway, and deleting old content in the current game world and incentivizing players to re-roll new characters, promising that fresh feeling because of the perception system's broad branching ability, different and unpredictable content at lower levels with new challenges, progeny incentives, and maintaining crafting specializations, the problem of level gap disappears completely. Half of the systems VR is building into Pantheon already skew in this direction. If they leaned in, we could see the first MMORPG to solve the empty zone, no low levels to group with, and forgotten content problems. Because, come on y'all, Margaret needs a friend right now. You know she do.